And it's actually from the book of Esther in the Bible, of all places. It talks about Mordecai, who was a leader in that time.
A leader is also a light in the darkness.
I think differently, and now I believe in myself because I'm around him, and I think even more is possible.
Welcome to Leading Lubbock, the podcast where we spotlight the voices shaping our city and beyond. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories and thought-provoking conversations with leaders who are making a difference in their communities. What makes this journey unique? Every guest is nominated by someone who's already been on the show, creating a chain of leadership that reflects the power of connection and community. Join us as we explore what it takes to lead with purpose and impact. This is Leading Lubbock. All right, welcome back to Leading Lubbock. Today, I've got the privilege of sitting down with Michelle McCord. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh my goodness, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Michelle, currently, you are the Superintendent of Frenship ISD.
I am. It's like gasp. Yes, I love it. Big job, but worth it. Great community of. So Frenship isn't a town, it's the name of a school district, and we have a unique spelling,
You do?
FRENSHIP. I don't know. That would be a whole nother podcast, I think. But no, love the people. It's a community, even though it doesn't have a city limit sign, doesn't have a mayor, but it's a community, for sure.
And growing. Oh my goodness.
It is. And it's just a testament to the people there and pioneers for sure. I feel like this might be turning into a friendship podcast, but anyway.
It's okay.
Our first year as a district was the 1935-1936 school year. So this is our 89th birthday. Wow. And to celebrate our 90th birthday, we will be opening our second comprehensive high school, Memorial High School, home of the Panthers.
Wow.
So we already have Tigers. We're going to have Panthers. So big cats.
Yes.
We're a big cat family.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. That's really funny that you even say that because my son, this is weird, going off in the weeds here, which is funny. But Slayton is where we're in their school district.
Yes.
We live out in Ransom Canyon, and so he's playing in Little League Baseball there, and they're the Tigers.
Oh, yes.
And their team, though, didn't want to be, because there's 3 different teams
I see.
of Slayton Little League, and so they decided to be the Panthers this year. So we got we let the
kids vote on what they wanted to be. I mean, we had some guardrails up, but the kids who were going to go to Memorial and be that first, if you were in middle school, that will feed into Memorial. We had a group of community members that came together and helped us kind of narrow down, because we got anyone could submit a suggestion, and we got some interesting ones.
I bet you did.
And just some, no words, just emojis, whatever. But then they narrowed down that list, and the kids chose the Panthers, and the Lubbock Elections Office was great. We brought in voting machines,
that's neat.
and they selected from 3. I don't remember what the other 2 were, but I was so thankful that it has a paw and it's a cat, because that simplifies a lot of things for us.
It does unifies it a little bit.
So,
that's great.
Anyway, but yes, I enjoy that role. It really is not a job, it's a lifestyle. And it's
neat.
a good one. It's a good one. Yeah.
That's great. And you have a family, or you're married?
Yes. So my husband, Tim, and I have been married for 33 years. Okay. And we don't have children of our own, but I have about 12,000 kids.
You got quite a few.
And of course, he and I grew up in the Wichita Falls, Texas area. I say that. He's from Wichita Falls, and I'm from a smaller town, and it's called Iowa Park. And sometime you should ask Dusty Thompson and Amy Thompson about Iowa Park.
Okay. I will do that.
You should. And when we figured out that we had a connection, they had a connection there too. Dusty served as a youth minister at one time there. And so that was my home church. Now they're younger than me, so Tim and I had already moved away, but the church provided a place for them to live. I use that term loosely. It was this most hideous trailer house that had been added onto multiple times. It was right across the street from the church, and it had this crazy, like, 70s gone bad shag carpet. I mean, all different colors, purple. It was horrible. But they had the funniest. They talked about how poor they were, and how much fun they had in that trailer house.
Well, I've heard a little bit about their beginning story.
Yes.
But now I've got a little bit more context
ours
to it.
collided, and we didn't realize it until Amy and I got connected out here in Lubbock. It was probably, 2019.
Okay.
And so I was like, she's
Wait
got
a minute.
like Amy Thompson and Dusty Thompson. He's a pastor. So anyway, it was funny because, there was a lot of things about Iowa Park. It's not really a destination place, but when you're from there, it's awesome. But so I love that we're able to, somebody knows what I mean when I'm talking about Iowa Park, and a little dive where they make the best Diet Cokes. It's the fountain drinks, Scobies. If you would drove past it, you probably wouldn't want to stop.
Okay.
You'd probably want to call maybe a building inspector and see if it was safe to go in, because somebody ran into it. But it's no big deal. They have the best Diet Cokes ever.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So some of the listeners are probably going, Diet Coke? That's not good for you.
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
But it's
But at
it's the
Scobies,
truth.
you gotta stuff it. Okay.
Yeah. Small town.
All right.
A small town. Yeah.
That's great. Well, let's jump in because I want to hear your perspective on leadership.
Yes.
And I mean, you've been in it. You're in it. So
I am.
Yeah,
And that is thrilling and, terrifying. And when I think back, I'm like, wow. So I don't feel like I've been doing it a long time, but I've been a superintendent in Friendship for 10 years.
Really? Wow.
10 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in your role or life, really,
Mm-hmm.
what does leadership, what does effective leadership look like? Has that changed over time?
I think it changes. What effective leadership looks like depends on who you're leading and kind of what space they're in. So I think we have to differentiate our leadership based on the needs of the individual or the department or then even an organization, and also the situation. And so I have found over the years as a superintendent that there are times that leadership, it always looks like service. It always looks like service, but not necessarily, serving someone water, which I appreciate. There's nothing wrong with that. But servant leadership is sometimes, if you just think about service, you're always serving someone else. It depends on the context, because you could be taking away an opportunity for them to learn and grow if you're always doing and telling. And so how does that person learn if I'm always doing the serving and they're always doing the watching or doing the being served? But it's about service. There are times when you want to collaborate and you're just, doing lots of listening, and it's one conversation at a time, and where everyone is seen and heard. But then there's times in leadership when you have to be decisive, when you can't collaborate if you have a crisis situation. You can't be afraid to make a decision. And you really don't have time to get everybody else's opinions about it. You've got to move swiftly. And I think John Wooden, I'm going to completely butcher this quote, but his is more like when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare. But sort of a twist on that is like when a crisis comes, like it's too late to just figure out who you are. It's too late to figure out what you expect from the leaders around you. And every situation, every difficult situation is different. So I think the police would say that, the fire department, it's like, so you can't have a step by step so you have to empower people to make decisions on their own because they cannot ask you permission in the throes of a crisis situation. Can't like stop and go, hold on everybody, don't evacuate yet.
Right.
I've got to check my click sheet
Sure.
on what I'm supposed to be doing, or I've got to call and ask.
Yeah.
And I'd heard a story like that when it was like, because you want to call and ask, there's no problem. You want to phone a friend, of course, but sometimes, one, literally the phones don't work, and two, you don't have time. So you just have to. And so I would say also building that trust with the confidence in the people around you, so that it's like, no, you don't need my permission. What if I'm, strong, effective leadership looks like a leader is strong in your presence and they're stronger in your absence.
I like that. Okay.
I read that somewhere, I don't know where, but it was like, if you're leading well, you don't have to be physically present all the time. And when I say that, you have to show up. I don't mean that, but me empowering a principal of a campus, they don't need me there. Because if I were there, then they're not really leading it. I am.
Yeah. Wow. So what does that look like in change from when you first started leading, early on roles that you took on? What do you feel like that looked like versus today's leadership?
Well, I still struggle with this, so disclaimer. So if anybody listens to this that works with me, they're gonna be like, I think you're still struggling with that some. But I would say what it looked like for me early on, not just in friendship, but in other places, is I did want to lead by example. And I do think that there's power in that and value in that. But here's where I missed, I just veered off a little bit, is so leading by example is I really always have fancied myself as a workhorse. I mean, I think I had a lot of pride in, I could do the work of about 3 or 4 people. And I didn't think I really took pride in that, but I guess I did. It just came to me naturally. I love to work. And what I thought I was doing, it was like, well, I want to show people that, I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll make the copies. I'll do this instead of delegating it to other people. I'm doing this for you, so you'll have time to do other things. But here's what I missed is that, one, I was not equipping people to do the work. You can't equip a person for work that you didn't let them do. And so I wasn't growing them in their skill set. And there were bottlenecks probably in some things because I was doing it and not letting them do it. So not empowering them to do it. But in hindsight, the part is really grieves me that I did. There was a result. I didn't mean it this way, but it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Is I unintentionally sent the message. I never said the words, but through my actions, I sent the message that I don't trust you to do this work. only I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a control thing.
Yeah.
And I morphed it into, no, it's a service thing. It's,
Yeah.
watch
I'll
me.
do it.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. But really, it's because you have to, leadership is not about controlling. It's about letting go of things. And as I've moved along through the years and in this position as superintendent, and as the district grows, one of the switches from assistant superintendent to superintendent, which they're both very important leadership roles. Well, every role is a leadership role, by the way. Custodian, food service worker. I mean, whatever you do, you can lead. Name tag tapper, like superintendent, that's not leadership. But, you know, you have just got to let other people be the hands and feet. So I'm doing my work, I find, through other people. And so that is not easy for me, because I want to do the work, but I am not the hands and feet.
Yeah.
So it's how do I articulate and communicate for them to do that work. And so when I say the work, I really am looking this through the lens most of the time of friendship. So because I said it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, of course, not of course, but I am a follower of Jesus. And so we don't get to really talk about Jesus a lot in the public school with the words. You can, so nobody, you know, get out the pitchforks. You are allowed to say it, but you demonstrate it and provide evidence of it in your actions and my actions and every single day. And so we don't get to say a lot about that, but the lens I look through to serve friendship is, it's not my school. These are not my kids, and this is not my money. And so we have shared core beliefs and a shared vision, and that has to kind of be the foundation. And so it's our vision statement is seek perfection, capture excellence. And so recently we went through a strategic planning process, road mapping, you know, really with our stakeholders and including our kids in that, some high school kids. Really, we should just let them do it. And I will just listen, because they are just brilliant.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
it was kind of heartbreaking, but I'm so glad we had the conversation, is some kids were misinterpreting that vision statement as to we expected perfection.
Okay.
And so that quote comes from Vince Lombardi, the Green Bay. So my dad, who died in 2003, he'd be so excited that I knew this, and I'm using a Vince Lombardi quote. He was the Green Bay Packers head coach. He took over the coaching responsibilities for them, and they were like in a really bad place, dark, hideous, not good, losing. And it's part of a speech that he gave where it's like, we are not perfect. We are far from perfect. But through our toil and strife and hard work and working together and lifting each other up, we will capture excellence. Kind of like the sign I saw in your hallway. What did it say?
Carry water.
Carry water and chop wood.
Yeah.
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 Carry the water and chop the wood every day.
Yeah.
Some thorns and thistles along the way, but you're going to capture excellence through that hard work.
Okay.
And so I was so glad that so when I say that, kind of went down that rabbit trail, but it's like in what I'm doing today and how I'm leading, allocating resources, whether those are people or time or, financial resources, does that reflect that I'm seeking perfection and capturing excellence for everybody always? Not some of the people, some of the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, And there's lots of great things and great ideas and, good programs, but you have to look through the lens of these are our core values and this is our mission statement. And as I look at these, what fits best for this community at this time for this child? And you can, craft it down to the individual of what does seek perfection, capture excellence look like, or our other belief statements. And, sometimes I see things that I don't think reflect that. And so then you have the crucial conversations,
Right.
and sometimes I reflect and I see it in my actions or my inactions. And it just, especially through the pandemic, it was really like everything felt so unsteady. Like you were just, we were just at sea. Everybody's kind of in a different boat, but everybody's, having the waves wash over them. And that sort of like held us steady.
Yeah.
This is what we believe. And so that's kind of our foundation, what you can hold on to when it felt like there really wasn't anything to hold on to. And so that was kind of a driving force. And just some of the things that it's just, what do we believe today? Because it was like everything was changing, and everything was like on tilt. And so that really helped guide us through those days as an organization, beyond like what the mandates were and all those things.
Yeah,
So,
all the other decisions.
masks, no masks.
Yeah. Things that fell on leadership to have to decide. And
Yes.
yeah. Well, the great thing that I hear too is you mentioned 12,000 kiddos, right? That are your kids. And you don't have the ability to go sit down with every one of those kids every day, right? And some probably never meet,
No,
I would imagine.
I know.
So what I love as you're talking about this idea of empowering other people is that, like, as you're letting go of some of the things that maybe are easier to hold on to and you're empowering them, there's just like pieces of you that trickle all the way down into the lives of every kid by the way that you're being so intentional with the staff.
Yeah, I
and
love
your
how you
teachers
said that,
and-
just little pieces. I've heard it described as, because I feel like, gosh, I just say the same things over and over again. But I've learned over the years that people need to hear it over and over again.
Yeah.
And then these 12,000 kids, it's not the same 12,000 every year.
Right.
First, we grow, so we have more than we had. When you have littles that are new, or people that move in that aren't little, and new staff.
Right.
So the other thing that's happening in this age of, what's the age of outrage? But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But, people are just, a lot of people are retiring, and not as many people are drawn to teaching or being a superintendent or a principal. They're complex roles because it's a complex world. Because you know what? One size fits one. And it's just difficult. And not because people are weak. I think people think they don't think they're enough. And that has been my struggle since childhood, is nobody told me. So I had a wonderful, godly family, 2 older sisters, and just, not rich in money, but just, that you can do whatever you want to do and be whatever you want to be, if you work hard and stick with it. Carry the water and chop the wood. My dad would be like, I need that, son. And my mom. But it was like, I always, no one told me you're not enough. But I believed that about myself. Yeah. It was the voice I told myself from the beginning. And it's so weird because I didn't hear that from people. Well, I'm sure I did, had harsh words from someone like everyone gets, but I never had that ingrained in me. I ingrained it in me. It's scary. So then when we think about our children or our adults, you know, is what are you listening to? What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? And like, who told you that? And that may not be true. Even if it was, I told myself that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it true.
Yeah. So I can wrestle with that same thing, and I've got the same, you know, if you talk to my wife or any of my close friends, I mean, they will tell you that's Ruben's ringtone, right? Is I'm not enough.
I'm not enough.
And it's hard. It's a
is.
hard thing to battle through.
And that's why we need each other, because like sometimes part of leadership is pointing out in someone else, like someone pointing out in Ruben, I see this in you. Because oftentimes you don't see that in yourself. So that's what leadership looks like sometimes too, is identifying the strengths that someone else has. But then other times it looks like if it's not Ruben or Michelle, and it's someone that's maybe like, hey, now you're tripping over your ego. You know, you can't get out of your own way with your ego. And so it may be a different conversation. Like, hey, you have these great qualities, you know, but the sledgehammer, maybe maybe wrap that in velvet a little.
So I'm sure you've heard the quote, leadership is lonely.
Yes.
And I would be curious from your perspective, like, what does that look like? Because you do need the voices that are encouraging to you, and yet many leaders, and I think this changes on what your leadership role actually is, because I agree with you. I think we're all leading.
Yes.
We're all leaders in whatever role, or whatever we're placed with in life. But I do think, like, when you are leading a group of people, you tend to be the encourager, you know, and you're the one having to build the people up. I'm curious what that looks like for Michelle, you know, on the loneliness side, or the who's encouraging you, or what, you know, how does...
Well, for me, one, like, I don't know, so I can only speak to my experiences, and I don't know that I could do this work or lead if I didn't have the encouragement of my husband, and I have two sisters, and but my parents and my husband's parents have already gone on to be with the Lord, but and a few close friends. The circle of trust is more like a dot. It's not even a circle. It's like tiny. And it's not because people aren't trustworthy. It's because it's kind of like, well, that's not really appropriate, because that's not the role. You know, and I have a great leadership team and a great school board. But with the leadership team, sometimes it's not appropriate for me to tell them certain things, or certain things about another one, you know. And so it is not uncommon that, so I will be in a room full of people, and I call it the parade wave. You know, I feel very uncomfortable with it because I was always very, very timid. I'm not really as much anymore. I don't know, just the role, you kind of change out of it, but you're really underneath all of it. I'm still just a middle school girl, you know, like hoping somebody will let me sit with them at the lunch table. And I think really we're all a little bit like that.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, we wear it differently.
Yeah.
Some people wear it with being loud and boisterous, and I invented that, you know.
Sure.
And then other people are, you know, not. But it all kind of comes from a similar space. But I can be in a crowded room and feel alone. Not necessarily lonely, but alone, because nobody really, it's not out of people respect the position. So it's a respect thing partly, but it's like, oh, you know, then I question myself. It's like, oh, or am I sending off this vibe that I'm not approachable? But really, I don't think that's it, because I try to think back on when I wasn't the superintendent, and you're just like, oh, they're busy. They've got more important things to do than talk to me. I know you're so busy. It's like, well, everybody's really busy, and my busy looks different, because I tell you what was the hugest transition was going from assistant superintendent of administrative services, which is code for all bad things all the time.
Okay.
So I felt like I was a fireman, policeman, crowd control, physician, just, well, kind of like a teacher has to do. I'm all the things. I'm all the things.
At all times.
And yes, and my phone's blowing up all the time, emails, people are coming in and out of my office. And when same district, became the superintendent, the silence is deafening. The silence is deafening. All of a sudden, I'm the same person. But people also, I think it's part of that, the circle of trust is small. And I don't mean that everyone's disingenuous, but I will say, you go to a conference, you go to something, and I would go to those same conferences before I became the superintendent. And, it's just a silly example. You walk around the exhibit hall, and vendors trying to sell you things. You got your name badge on, assistant superintendent. I could have been literally on fire, and nobody probably would have noticed and tossed a little water on me, When you walk in there and you've got the superintendent badge, well, I'm funnier, faster, smarter. But you know what? When you start believing that you're faster, smarter, wiser, that's dangerous to believe the press, because you're never as good as somebody might say you are. But then what I struggle with is you're never as bad, because I never believe I'm good.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
not
like,
the
oh,
problem
that's
side
easy.
of
Yeah,
things, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But when they tell me, how bad they don't even really have a face. They just just the mob. Yeah. And so that's what I struggle with, is not believing that, how bad you are. And so you have to have a little Teflon. It's like some feedback is constructive, and you need to hold on to it.
Yeah.
And you need to act on it, and I need to reflect. And then other feedback that is not useful, that's poisonous, and you need to let it go. And you need to know the difference. And but I also think that reflecting, for me, so we're talking about loneliness or being alone. So again, there's a big difference in being lonely and being alone. And I feel lonely at times because the weight of some of the information that I have, whether it's a crushing story about someone or something that's devastating, but that has been told to me in confidence, and I can't share it. Or sometimes it's like, just really like, wow, that's juicy. Wish I could tell somebody or laugh about it, or just go, can you believe that even happened? And you're just like, well,
just
okay.
process this out loud.
Yes. And so, but a lot of times knowledge, it is a burden to bear.
Sure.
And people don't think of it that way. People think they want to know. Oh, I want to know. Give me the juice on it.
Yeah.
Especially if it's bad, Maybe not true, but, bad. People oftentimes don't get bogged down in the truth. Like on social media, it's like, that's not true, but, So in that, it's a burden to hang on to that. And you've got to find an outlet for that. And so the alone part, that's not lonely for me. Every leader's different, but I do have time alone. When my husband and I don't have children, he travels a lot. He has our whole marriage. I went to school a lot through most of our marriage. I got my doctorate when I was 48. So I've had about 10 years of not going to school. But, I need time alone. I really think leaders need time alone because this world comes at you 9,000 miles an hour. I mean, just in your face like a fan on high, just blowing at you. And you got to have some deep thoughts sometimes. You can't just have popcorn going around all the time. Sometimes it requires depth and time and quiet. Everybody sees things and does things differently. I think every human needs some quiet.
Yeah.
But for me, I find that I need time alone to really ponder and, just look at things from a bunch of different angles. Some of the worst mistakes I've made have been not being able to get above the white noise and stand above it, and go, okay, let me get past this noise right here, this white noise, the background noise, and get at the key. Or like get under it.
Yeah.
Get under it.
Stay in it.
Yeah, get under it and figure out what is, what's really going on here. Or what, after I've had some time to think about something. And that hasn't always been the case. But, I said sometimes, like if it's oh, look, this building's on fire. Well, you can't ponder that for a long time. You've got to go, you don't scream fire, but you have to look for the map and be calm and, what have we learned? And that looks different. So I enjoy being alone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I have not thought about the difference between, leadership being alone versus leadership being lonely, and I do think that there's probably seasons where
it's both.
I've felt both. Yeah. And the themes that come up in these podcasts often are just fascinating to be on this side of it and kind of start hearing repetition. But I would say the last several people who I've talked to have talked about the need to be alone and the need to get by yourself and be with your thoughts and be, take a step back and maybe get a new perspective. And it just, I don't know that we're that great at shutting off. We count on sleep, right?
We're
sleep
not. Yes.
being our time. But the conscious stopping and being with ourselves, like,
and
it's
I'm not
uncomfortable.
great at it about turning it off, so to speak, with my phone. But I don't do social media. I get plenty of screenshots of it.
I'm sure you see it more than anybody else.
It's usually never good.
Right.
But so I don't have a problem with it. I think I would be addicted to it. And then I also, I don't know if I could have become a leader as a superintendent if I had kids of my own. I don't know if I would have wanted to, but I don't know if I would have had the capacity because, I have nieces and nephews, so I have a great niece and 2 great nephews, and they'll come to our house sometimes, and and this is not just me by myself, by the way, but just having them there, after 2 days, I'd be like, what is my name? Who am I? I mean, you're just trying to, when I rode with my niece and her 2 little boys, we were driving to Houston, and they are 4 and 18 months. And one of them was he kept wanting snacks. And so I was passing back Betty Crocker fruit bites. So by the way, if you're a really organic person, I wouldn't recommend them. And so then we were taking turns at Buc-ee's to stop, go in. Well, one was asleep, one wasn't. Well, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll bring Evan. He's the little one in. He was the one who'd had all the fruit bites. And I saw him in the back seat because his car seat faces backwards. And there was a little mirror, but I couldn't see everything. And he had just these fruit bites. They had turned into crazy glue or something. And they were just glued to his face. And his fingers were kind of stuck together. And I'm like, I can't even, how could you lead? And you're like trying to pick off, glued on fruit bats.
Right.
How do moms and dads, so we're talking about just how fast things come at you, and when do you get to turn that off and be the person you need to be for your family, for those you serve, but for yourself?
Yeah.
Like, how do you, I don't know how people do it, because some people are energized by that, just, oh, I'm a multitasker, well, I would probably call baloney on some of people that say they're multitaskers, but you're distracted.
Yeah.
You're distracted. I'm distracted.
You're manager of chaos.
Yeah. And so if you have
juggling.
a family, and how do you ever get separated from that? And so you can't pour out of an empty cup.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Oh boy. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for the grace that you have for the people who are in that you see it,
yes.
you recognize it, that you're, and I hope that anybody who is a leader, even if it's of their household, and they're a mom or a dad of multiple kids, or even a kid, like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
And if you're a stay-at-home mom and have an infant, and it would be like my niece, when she had her first, she was like, I don't even know if I brush my teeth. I don't even know. And she's a children's minister. It's like, I hope so.
Yeah.
Because
for everybody's
I
sake.
don't, that's not good for anybody. But it's just, and I never experienced that, of having just that all the time. And I'm not saying it's a blessing to have your kid, but how do you think deep thoughts?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a deep thought. My thought is, did I brush my teeth?
That's exactly
Did I
right.
comb my hair?
Are my kids wearing shoes?
You're right.
I don't know that they're actually wearing shoes. And I
Where
drop
are
them
my
off
kids?
At school.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's true. We have 4 littles, and and they're
you are outnumbered.
4 to 10
age
ranges. So we're outnumbered and lots going on.
You need to. I need to connect you with, or you may already know him. His name is Lane Sheets.
Oh yeah.
And he has 4 littles.
And
he's an assistant superintendent.
That's right.
And he's got, I think their oldest is about 10, 11.
Yeah. I'll have to give him a shout out to let him know we're talking about him on this show.
Yeah.
But this was like years ago. We did this, I think this is when I first met him, is we did a premarital class. Actually, it was for married couples, and we were just dating, my wife and I. We weren't even engaged, so we thought we were going to some type of premarital.
But it was a postmarital.
It was
postmarital. It was real.
It was real life. But I think that's where I met Lane and his wife. And
probably.
Anyways, we didn't have any kids at the time, so now it's interesting to think, we both have 4 kids, and life's changed a little bit.
And I don't know how he does it, but I don't know how she does it. She's a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And so you just think like, stay at home.
Yeah.
Well, that is it
really needs a different title.
It does. It does. And at home, you don't get the lunch hour or a sick day.
That's right.
Or you don't even get a bathroom break.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's just, I could see where you just feel like you're in the abyss, and you're just like, who am I?
Right. Yeah.
You just, So anyway,
separating yourself away from the kids.
Who am I without?
Yeah.
Because you're never without.
Sure. Oh,
even in the restroom, usually, I think it's like, mom, never
leaves you. Never leaves you. Well, what are you learning right now? Like, what do you feel like is the lesson that life is or you're absorbing maybe from life?
Well, I'm learning lots of things. That's just important to learn. And you even said the words earlier when I said I'm not really the hands and feet, that you said little pieces. So I read an article. I don't know if you've heard of the Holdsworth Foundation, but it's Charles Butt, HEB.
Oh, yeah.
And they are huge supporters of public education. And from that grew the Holdsworth Foundation. And I think Holdsworth was his mother's maiden name or something. And she was an educator. And so they invest in developing leaders of schools and pipelines of leadership in schools. So it was an article I read, and it was really specific to a superintendent who he was a new superintendent, but it fits any leader. And so I read that article in July. And so it's a season for me in my work and in my life as, I'm closer to the end of my career than I am the beginning. I'm 59. And I have 3 of my key leaders who are retiring this year. And one of them did kind of in mid-year. And then we're opening this new high school. We're growing and growing and growing. And so it's called Letting Go of the Pieces. Mm-hmm. And it was like, so the role of a superintendent, but I mean, you could just put insert,
blank.
Yes, mom, nurse, teacher, CEO, and that you have to, in order for the organization to thrive, you, as the leader, not the leader, but one of the leaders, and people are looking at me as the superintendent, as the Texas Education Code, you're the chief executive officer. And if I'm not letting go of some of the pieces, then I'm hurting the organization. And I'm hurting myself because the burnout happens quickly with everything now because it's constant. And so it's a superintendent who had grown up as a professional in this district, and then he becomes the superintendent there. And he's like 1 year in, and he's like, I don't think I can keep doing this. And he was like, I'm so exhausted. Not like, oh, it's been a hard week, but I don't know how to keep going. And so we have to think about our work differently, think about our habits, think about all these things differently. And then what really resonated with me is that the article talked about that what you did as a professional in that organization before you became the CEO, that becomes your kryptonite. And I was like, they're talking about me. So the role that I had before becoming superintendent was, I said, assistant superintendent of all bad things. Okay. And so my kryptonite is, so I have this, does anybody ever cry on this show?
We've had one close.
Okay. Is that I just think about it, and is something terrible happening at school, like with a shooting or something. And so I struggle, not that I don't want to pay attention to that, but I struggle to I am in the weeds of, we have a police department, we have all these things, and they do a great job, but a school district just doesn't happen and take place during the school day. It's like a little city, like a little like a hospital or something. Yeah. It's 24/7, 365. And so we have this, crazy, people are going to probably go, somebody escort her out of that building. Not only does she not need to be the superintendent, she needs a padded cell. But it's, things happen all the time. And it's like either somebody's having, going into anaphylaxis, your ambulance is being called, or somebody got their arm broken at a baseball game. And so we have this text group, police chief, me, the assistant superintendent of all bad things, the communications director, and me, and the student services person. Well, I stay in that group all the time. And so even if I'm off or whatever, I stay in it. And so it's sort of like my addiction to, some people are addicted to social media, some people are addicted, well, I'm addicted to just being in that all the time. And so I'm right here. You know, if you're right here, you can't have a view.
Right.
I need to be on the balcony. And sometimes I find myself under the seats, like looking for, and there is a space for that, but then I do not have the capacity to be and do, to have a vision. So you have a different perspective on the balcony than you do under the theater seat.
Sure.
And so I'm not tempted to try to take over technology. I don't go like,
that's not
oh
true.
no, we don't need a new server. I feel like we're good there.
Right.
But it's what your expertise was in that is your kryptonite. And so letting go of the pieces and figuring out how to do that, strength to strength.
Yeah.
That book is good. The other thing I'm reminding myself of, and we all know this in our heads, but you couldn't tell it by the way we live out our lives, is this is the age of outrage. And if you want to lead and you want to set yourself apart, it's easy. Don't shout expletives at someone who gives you the wrong drink. Don't lose your mind over something small. Like, I don't know, have you noticed that nobody's just a little anything?
Right, that's true.
It's like used to it just be like middle school kids. Yeah. It's like they're going through puberty. And I love middle school kids. I really just identify with a middle schooler because they're so wonderful and so uniquely and wonderfully made. But they haven't really developed, their frontal lobe is not developed. And even the really, kids who appear to have it together, they don't even have it together. They're a hot mess, like little aliens. And that's what I feel like. But we are they don't feel a little bit of, like teenagers. They don't feel, I'm not a little happy. I am ecstatic.
Yeah.
I'm elated. I'm euphoric. Or I'm devastated. I'm furious.
Yeah.
But now these days, it's like nobody's irritated. They're outraged. I'm outraged. And so, I thought a little girl, she's not a little girl, she was working at Brahms one day, and I was driving through getting a Diet Coke. And anyway, she accidentally gave me, I could tell it wasn't Diet Coke. And I said, oh, this is not Diet Coke. And she was almost in tears because I guess she thought, it was clear people had been horrible to her.
Yeah.
And she had this trauma response to me saying, hey, I think I was like, oh no, it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
I love it. I'll just keep it.
It's fine. It's fine.
And it's fine. But if you want to set yourself apart and be a wonderful leader, be kind.
Yeah. Give
people grace and give yourself some grace. But in an age, now I said I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm just going to go to preaching now.
Let's go.
Is that, I don't know why I'm surprised by the fiery trials. It says they're going to happen. You know what? I'm surprised every single time. But it's like in these days, people are going to not want to hear the truth. They're going to be brutal. They're going to be, just people that are just evil and bad things happening to people. And then we're instructed on, in these very days, when things just seem like, gosh, this just seems horrible. In response to that, what I'm supposed to do is let my gentleness be evident. And to think about wisdom from above. And when you read about wisdom from above, it is first peaceable. It considers the other's opinions. And it's all the things that I don't want to do. What I want to do is just snap.
Yeah.
And I have like, sometimes I just like almost have like a forked tongue. Forked. I don't know if that's a, that's a,
I like it.
that's really a SAT word for the day is forked.
Sounds like
But
you're being
in
very
this
poetic.
era of outrage and just deceit and hopelessness and all of these things, you set yourself apart by, not acting like you are about to just twist off on somebody.
Yeah.
Be kind.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You know what communication is? Because we love communication. We're all about the communication. But we've just forgotten a key element of it, which is not talking. The whole listening piece.
Yeah.
And listening is not like I'm sometimes being quiet for me, but I find I'm not really listening. I'm formulating my response. I'm waiting for you to quit talking so I can tell you how this needs to be. Let me just tell you what's correct. So I'm not really listening.
I'm just getting ready. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm building my
I'm not the
case.
Yeah, listening and speaker in waiting aren't the same
not,
things.
yeah. Wow. That's good. Okay. Ooh, there's a lot to unpack in there. I love it. I think
Yes.
that you've kind of rocked my world. I can't wait to go back and like start listening to
Yes.
some of this again.
I think it's in
The
James 3 where it
idea-
talks about wisdom from above.
Yeah.
And so, and then like listen to, something on politics today
Oh goodness.
and
Yeah.
see if you hear any wisdom
Yeah.
from above.
Right. And Jesus, walked on earth in a time of,
Yes.
outrage.
Yes.
I think very similarly,
Yes.
it was a very turmoil, and there was no just kind of middle ground. I feel like there was
Yes.
just so much on the other
Yes.
side, and yet modeled to us what it looks like to lead in love and in grace and
Yes.
care for others.
And I'm
so-
talking a good game up here, but I tell the people that work closely with me because they get to see the past the parade wave, and
Yeah. Oh, man.
so it's just raw. And so I just feel like sometimes, it's, just like Paul or like Peter, it's like, then I end up doing, like I have my quiet time and I, read and pray and do all these things to equip myself for the day. They'd be like 9:30. Well,
Yeah.
but his mercies are new
That's right.
every morning.
Yeah. I know. That's what I was thinking. Thank you, God.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, well, I want to talk about the book that you chose
Yes.
for today. And you brought your own copy, The Strength You Need,
Ready.
right, by Robert
Yes.
Morgan. The 12 Great Strength Passages of the Bible. And for anybody that's not watching and just listening, I'm holding the book here, but Michelle, you have another copy in your hand.
Yes.
And that one has sticky tabs
It
on it. It
does.
looks
It's-
a little bit more
It's a
weathered
little
than mine.
janky.
And
Yeah, it's got
so-
handwritten notes in it.
I could tell you
I
referenced
love
this one.
this book. It was recommended to me in the beginning days of the pandemic.
Okay.
And it is, there are 12 verses that are the strength passages of the Bible. But it has a story in it that relates to a time in history. And so the one it was easy because the very first one I was like, well, I'm hooked. And Deuteronomy 33:25. Your strength will equal your days. And so then that first story is about Grover Cleveland, who was he was the only president to ever get married in office. And we always think about times being hard now. You know what? I don't think there really were any times that weren't hard.
No.
Horrible economic times. And he found out he was sick. And so he didn't want anyone to know because the economy was in a bad space. He just didn't want, if they see you weak, he didn't want anybody to know that. Well, this was his favorite passage, but he went to, and I'm not saying this was a good idea, but this is what we do to sometimes not do what we need to do for ourselves, is he, as a president, because they wanted to keep it a secret that he had this tumor, a cancerous tumor, is that they went out on a boat in the water, were offshore for the surgeons to remove his tumor.
Wow, I didn't know this.
So that he could show strength. And so he ended up he got through it and all those things, but it's like, is that not so true today? That we try to act like we're okay and then we're really hiding?
Yeah.
We're hiding something, maybe not a tumor,
Right.
but it's like, that Deuteronomy 33:25 says that we'll have sufficient God-given strength for every task until the day we die. And it's a promise. And so you're not ever going to wake up in the morning that God has given you work to do or a burden to bear, that he won't provide you the strength to deal with it. And the reason why my book looks like this is because I forget, and I had to keep going back. I'll be like, "Oh Lord, I cannot do it. I cannot do it."
Yeah.
And then as we try to help ourselves out of it and struggle ourselves alone or hide in a boat and have people cutting on you, is that I just usually feel like my strength is waning when I'm trying to do it myself. And he doesn't call the equipped.
Right.
He didn't say, "Oh, Michelle," because I sure as heck was not anyone that'd be like, "Oh, she's a leader. Oh, there's the next superintendent waiting in the queue." He equips you if you're willing.
Yeah. Well, I love that you have found something that you can go back to regularly.
Yes.
I've often heard that start many books and read the best ones multiple times. It doesn't mean you have to finish every book, but start them. And if
I read a lot.
resonates,
Yes.
then
Yes.
then
Or
have it on
listen
your
to
bookshelf.
it
Or
if
listen
it's
to it.
okay.
That's right.
Audiobook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love that you have reference points there and great reminders.
Look,
So-
I was like, good.
Good.
In case-
It says good on that sticky note.
Yes.
I love it. Okay, well, I have really enjoyed getting to hear from you. This has been such a pleasure. I like to end with the question of just wrapping it all up with a bow, and that's if you could define leadership in one sentence, or a thought.
Well, I
sometimes
can't.
it's like dots and dashes, and that's okay.
Yes. So, I could either have many pages and many words, or I'm going to say one word.
Okay.
Influence.
Okay.
Everyone has it. How do you use it?
Yeah. ...
Yeah.
No, that is it's a good reminder. We are all influencing. How are we influencing? How are the ripple waves? Where are they going? How big are they? And are they good, or are they uplifting or not?
How do people feel when they're around me?
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. What
Thank
a wonderful
you.
space this is. If y'all can't see it, you're missing out because it's this wonderful old restored building.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a fun place to be. A lot of history here, and it kind of tells its own story too, which is what
and
I
you're
love
making
about this.
history here.
Yeah.
And you're making history.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for coming.
Of course.
Thank you for taking care of all of those kiddos that.
Oh.
I mean, wow, the pieces that we talked about being everywhere.
Yeah, and I'm just
love.
grateful to parents and families that, I mean, literally entrust the lives of their children to us every day, their safety, psychological, physical, and then we influence their lives with the education. So that's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
And trust is fragile. So I'm grateful.
Well, sounds like they've entrusted it to a good individual.
Well, I hope so. Some days.
and
It
great
depends.
systems.
Yeah, but thank you so much for what you're
absolutely.
doing.
Yep.
Yes.
You bet. Well,
Yes.
thank you again, and we will definitely be in touch moving forward. I'm excited to see
Absolutely.
what you do.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.